Hey everyone, this is Charlie Shrem, and you are listening to Untold Stories, where I wish it was more often, but twice a week I get to dive deep with some of crypto's most influential leaders to find out how this movement really came to be and where we're going. I get to talk to some of the coolest people, and now I'm really excited to introduce you to Fan Long of the Conflux network. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, wow. Nice to meet you all of the audience of this channel.
Yeah, of course. This the show's produced by Blockworks Group, media and production company that I trust, and they're amazing. They have 20 other podcasts in their production by all my friends of mine. So it's great that we can all work together and do some fun things together. But forget that. More importantly, this is really cool because, we're talking about a 10,000 square foot facility, potentially a research institute that is supported by the Shanghai municipal government and the Hunan government. And, you had city officials at the grand opening. And you could say that the Chinese government is definitely working with you guys. Can you really start from the beginning? I want to talk about Conflux. I want to talk about how it all came to be. But really, tell me about you and how the transition went from what you were doing before to getting into crypto.
Well, yeah. So, maybe first starting from myself, right? So I'm a computer scientist, and my research has been about programming languages, system securities, software engineering. So those are kind of areas that are really close to blockchain itself, right? So blockchain 10 years ago is not even a research topic, right? So before Bitcoin, people don't know what is blockchain.
When do you think blockchain or Bitcoin or crypto, or what year do you think that people could do research or use it as a Ph.D. dissertation or something like that? If I tried to write my Ph.D. argument, a thesis on in 2011 on Bitcoin, people were like, "What is this? This you can't do that."
Yeah, it's not a PhD topic in 2011. Okay, unless you're Satoshi Nakamoto, just presented that you presented that white paper as your PhD work. That works, right? But if you just do some add-on work on blockchain, it's no longer it's not a PhD topic at that time. I think people start to realize that this is a really big thing, especially in academia, starting around 2016 or 2017.
Interesting.
So it's roughly the time of after the first peak of Bitcoin, after Silk Road, the first peak of Bitcoin. More and more people start to investigate the problems what's going on in blockchain area. Before that time, people think this is just a one system, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And this system is too small for a PhD to graduate, right? That's a song. But now I think it's in this topic's enough to graduate 100 or 1,000 PhD.
That's an interesting phrase, words that you use, calling it a one system. Potentially, people looking at Bitcoin from that maximalist approach back then, and then now it's a larger kind of thing. I think I've heard that one party, two systems or something like that. That's what I was thinking about when you said that, kind of comparing and contrasting, because the difference, the way in America that and this, in America, you're raised with this idea that there's only one way or the highway, right? It's a famous song. But it's different in Chinese academia. It's not so, correct? It's more of you can have multiple ideas and multiple systems that kind of work together, but it doesn't make sense to me. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think computer scientists always view blockchain as distributed system. It's just a very complicated distributed system that operates in a potentially very malicious environment, right? You could have attackers driven by profit try to do 51% attack, or all sorts of attack trying to gain profit in that system. So it's a distributed system because operators of that system distributed across the globe, and that's a very like a classic. I would say it's a very classic. It's not classic. It's like a very standard distributed system problem. I mean, to solve. It's a very challenging one because the scale that blockchain system trying to do, right? It's an internet scale, and honest people. There could be like a thousands of honest nodes. So that's always like computer scientist view of blockchain, what blockchain system is. And back that time when 2011, or 2012, people studied blockchain or Bitcoin as one example of distributed system. I actually learned Bitcoin when I was doing my PhD in MIT, and in the distributed computing course, a distributed system course, it's one case that we studied. So that's a lot. I think a lot.
What else are you learning in distributed systems courses? Like what are examples of distributed systems like pre-blockchain?
Well, basically any system that composes multiple computers working coordinatively together or cooperatively together, it can count it as a distributed system, right? Databases that deployed at multiple machines, file system deployed at multiple machines, they cooperate together. That's all distributed system. The big difference between distributed system before and distributed system right now of blockchain.
Okay, wait, but before you get discuss the difference, pre-Bitcoin blockchain.
There's no pre-Bitcoin blockchain. There's only pre-Bitcoin.
Okay, so you're right. Pre-Bitcoin. In your classes and in your teachings and in your studies, in your research, had the question never come up? Whereas you have 10 computers, and how do you make sure that 6 of them in a distributed system are always staying honest and maintaining like that 51%? Without having a centralized kind of like string puller.
That's a very classical. That's very classical problem that have been studied for 20 years.
What was the best solution before Bitcoin?
Well, before Bitcoin, the best solution was the Byzantine fault tolerance. I think people still talk about that. Yeah, pbft. That's a very standard algorithm which could guarantee safety if 2/3 of the participants are honest. Wow. Bitcoin just provides Bitcoin provides a very innovative new solution to this problem. And it's the first time that it brings such Byzantine system to internet scale, right?
Can you go into a little bit more about like what fault tolerance kind of looked like back then? Like how would you solve the Byzantine? What was the best answer to the Byzantine Generals Problem pre-Bitcoin?
Pre-Bitcoin, best answer is I would call it's like a pbft algorithm. That the way to do it is you get those computers together and cast a vote, and every time if there's a 2/3 of people voting on the same thing, this transaction or it can think this block gets passed and everyone processes.
Okay, so the idea of having like distributed voting was theorized and you could do it, but but there was no way to attach a finite, scarce, earth-based resource, attaching that to the voting mechanism without having a centralized authority being the attacher. Does that kind of...
Well, yeah, or like people don't sort about using proof of work or this kind of style to fix it. The real drawback of a pbft solution is one is like it requires 2/3, right? Another one is it's not permissionless in a sense that you have to know who will participate in the voting or participate in the transaction processing before the setup. So it's like, this is 100 people from different locations, they will do that. And while Bitcoin is completely permissionless, you don't need to ask anyone's permission to join the network. But if you set up pbft network, you need to set up a membership before. Right?
Oh, so a key definition, and this is good for the listeners. I'm learning this too. A key definition of the word like permission and permissionless is not just once you're inside, but it's getting in. Meaning that permission blockchains.
That's the key thing.
Oh,
permissionless.
Wow.
It's you don't need to ask anyone's permission to join. That's the most important thing. You have a computer. You can just join Bitcoin network. You can just join Ethereum network, right? You don't need to ask any authority. In BFT system, at least you need the consensus of the current member to join, and oftentimes you would require pre-setup. It's like you can't join. Before
it becomes a club and exclusivity. If the people involved can decide who can join, they want to control that.
That's actually why a lot of alliance chain, well, people call that alliance chain or private chain, use BFT algorithm still because they just don't value permissionless as a very important property, right? They, by definition, are permissioned network, not permissionless network.
So theoretically speaking, I'm surprised no one has created a blockchain, a public blockchain to play this social theory out. But essentially, you launch a blockchain where if you want to mine it or stake it, you need 51% permission from all the other people that are currently staking or mining it. And like voting takes place every block. So you got to that would be I wonder how that would play out.
Well, I mean, that would require mixed ideas from the proof of work and the BFT. I mean, but that's how that will play out. I don't know. I mean, it's probably economics will determine. But
that's what's fun. Yeah, that's the fun part of this whole industry. So, so tell me about Conflux, because obviously things you're not going to work on something if it's not exciting and interesting for you.
Yeah, I mean. Well, back to days, it was like just a computer scientist working on those areas very close to blockchain. I get attracted to blockchain around time in 2016 or 2017, roughly the same time where blockchain could become PhD thesis. But that was not my PhD thesis. I just get interested as a researcher, and I really started to do Conflux. It starts from a research project, actually. Well, when I graduated from MIT, I take a gap year and back to Beijing and hung out with my friends in Beijing. And Tsinghua University invited me to give a guest lecture at its Crypto Plus. So they know that I'm working on a little bit of research on blockchain. So they say, okay, maybe you can just teach blockchain for 3 hours and then introduce the students to the new concept of blockchain. It's related to crypto, right? So I did it. And it's in that class I get connected with a lot of several brilliant students in Tsinghua University. And we start to say, okay, hey, we have a very nice idea about how to make blockchain systems scalable. That means processing more transactions per second, faster. And then we started a research project at that time, and that's end of 2017. And then the research, we made our research prototype, verify our idea, very rough implementation that actually, via modifying Bitcoin client, then published the paper. And that was a time, and by that time, it's actually April 2018 or May 2018, and that was still the peak of last ICO cycle. And there are several of my investor friends saying, "Hey, you guys should not, make this just a research paper. You guys should, really come out and do this." And that's we get convinced, or at least we are also excited about the possibility, and we feel like, okay, let's do the real thing and make a bigger impact. So that's why we started Conflux.
It's such an amazing thing, and it's so important because these conversations, and then doing the research, and then doing the computer, the actual, not just when you have R&D, it's research and development. Doing the development to increase like transactions and throughput. But I want to ask you, because you brought up a question that I want to think about. You bringing up. We talk about permission versus permissionless blockchains, and everyone and I would argue that like proof of and tell me if I'm wrong, because this is why I'm talking to you today. I need to be proven wrong. I would argue that all proof of stake is permissioned. That all proof that Bitcoin. I'm going to make a bunch of statements and tell me how I'm wrong. Bitcoin is the only Bitcoin and proof of work is the only true permissionless blockchain out there, and mining is permissionless. Proof of stake requires permission. In that, the 51% of the people can always control the price, and price mechanisms and markets are always going to be centralized as much as you decentralize them. But mining and proof of work will always be a decentralized thing. At the end of the day, as long as Earth remains the ability for people to find natural resources without needing permission, then no one can ever prevent anyone from getting into mining. Am I wrong?
I can provide. I think I can only provide good answers for those computer science questions. You also asked several like economic questions. I can talk about it, but I mean, I will probably know similar levels that you do. I think. In some sense, you're right. I mean, if you count like to join proof of stake, what it costs or what it takes to join proof of stake network, and what it costs to join a proof of work network. Proof of stake network. The problem of proof of stake network is that you have to make sure that you are on the right tip, you're on the right history, right? So it's like. When you join a proof of work network, you can, as long as you get all the history blocks, you can verify by yourself. Like, I'm on the right history.
Okay.
Because this history accumulated the most amount, the majority amount of proof of work on this part of chain, right? That's really important. Character that makes proof of work fully permissionless. Proof of stake, you always run into this, people call it a long-range attack, or like weak subjectivity problem, where you join the network, you download all the block. You have to ask someone which chain is the right one to leave on.
Oh.
Because you can no longer that means you have to trust someone or you can choose whoever you trust, but it's like you are living in a multiverse.
So if I'm launching
multi-universe.
If I'm launching a proof of stake node, how do I attach myself to the correct network? My node has to.
You will have several services you care that you want to be on the same universe as they do. You ask, for example, Binance. You ask for
theoretically, if someone did an attack,
the official foundation,
and went after these oracles or these networks, these auto connecting node type things, that can circumvent. You could basically point it to your own minority chain.
Yeah, and such attacks already happened in some of the proof of stake networks.
Is that what happened with ETC?
No, ETC is still proof of work, and it's a 51%. I think in the past, the chain like IOTA.
Yes, I remember when IOTA this happened to.
IOTA, there are people getting affected by that, and there are also all the smaller proof of stake chains having problem with that. I mean, proof of stakes, this is a known problem. You have to, trust someone. I mean, trust someone being the right history, because you cannot verify the history on your own. That's the biggest thing. I also want to add a major difference about the permission, about the proof of work and proof of stake. I would say any proof of stake chain, I mean, right now, any proof of stake, if a chain starts with a proof of stake, it's probably not even decentralized at all.
I've been talking about Sportsbet.io and their clubhouse, which is a huge community. When you play, when you make a bet, when you do a spin, They pay you with free hands, cash back, and bets. You can play all sorts of games, and they've been doing this for so long in a free, fair, and transparent way on the blockchain. Well, that's not why I'm excited today and why I'm talking to you about this. Because now they're taking this community to the next level by sponsoring the Southampton Football Club. You're talking about millions of British football fans can now see the Bitcoin logo on the front and the sleeve of also the Walford Football Club. I mean, how amazing is that? You're talking about not sponsoring your company. You're talking about sponsoring Bitcoin and crypto. Millions of people around the world are now going to be seeing this and joining the Sportsbet.io clubhouse to earn more points, to play games, and to be part of that community. There's really no other way that you can use and spend your crypto and then actually earn more back and be part of this whole community. So listen, make sure you guys join sportsbet.io/podcast. Give them the support that they deserve because they're supporting us and me. Go play some games, get some free hands, get some free spins, and make sure you check them out and support them on the Southampton Football Club's first game, whenever that's going to be. Check it out. It's a crazy world when I tell you that everything we say, do, hear, see, sleep, everything that we interact with the world is being constantly listened to, packaged up, and sold to other people without our permission. But we already know that. You're nodding your head. We know that. Why are we okay with it? We shouldn't be. We're not getting paid for any of that. Well, my sponsor, Permission.io, actually a very cool company, and you could check them out at permission.io/Charlie. They figured out a way for you to get a piece of the action because advertisers are going to be targeting you no matter what. And now you can decide which advertisers are able to do so by granting them specific permission, and then you get a piece of the action. So you're like basically earning rewards for doing what you already do online, consuming the content and sharing all your favorite information. Now, right at this minute, only these tech giants are profiting from your data. You have all these like Cambridge Analytica and all these like crazy files that are coming out with how our data is being used against us to spin elections and fake news and blah, blah, blah. With my sponsor, Permission.io, that is about to change. If anything, check it out. It's so cool what they're doing and how they're doing it. You can get a special sneak peek at Permission.io/Charlie. And thank you guys. Thank you, Permission team, so much for sponsoring and allowing me to do what I love to do and to do this show. Hey guys, I'm Charlie Shrem. And Bittrex Global is sponsoring this show. They are amazing. They are the true OGs of the crypto space. Bittrex Global has been around since 2014. I remember when I bought Bitcoin and tokens from them years ago. Listen, they pride themselves on being not only the most safest, secure exchanges around, they also pride themselves on being very heavily regulated to protect your crypto. Listen, from now until the end of the year, they're going to be having no trading fees and no gas fees for you. For my listeners, for all your DeFi tokens. Listen, I even got this awesome sweatshirt for Christmas, and I live in Florida, so there's like no need to even have Christmas sweaters because it doesn't even snow here. Listen, for all my listeners, if you sign up for Bittrex Global and you trade at least $1,000 and you leave your tokens on the exchange through December, they're going to give you $50 in USDT in January. Just when you sign up at this link that you'll see in the show notes. So if you sign up at this link that you see in the show notes that's linked to the bottom right now, you get $50 for free just for trading. Just for doing whatever you're doing now, and there's no trading fees. So check them out. Bittrex Global. I'm Charlie Shrem. So you've been listening to the show, you're ready to dabble in DeFi, you're ready to buy and sell some coins and tokens, but you go on some unknown exchange and you find out that you can't actually deposit or withdraw or trade any of these coins or tokens because you need gas, you need trading fees. You want to trade this coin or token, you need Ethereum gas. You want to trade this other one, you need Neo, you need Polkadot, you need IOTA, or whatever you choose. You just need all this stuff. Well, my sponsor, Bittrex Global, has decided from now until the end of the year, they will not give you any trading fees or any gas fees for any of those DeFi coins or tokens. This is not some unknown exchange. This is Bittrex Global. They are a true OG. I've been trading with them since 2014. They pride themselves on being the safest, most secure exchange. How do you get all these no fees, no trading fees, and no exchange fees, and no DeFi fees? You got to go on untoldstories.com/Bittrex Global. That's untoldstories.com/Bittrex Global. They are so cool. the company's been around for so long. They were the first company back then to have faces or names on their website. They were so transparent. They still are. It's very important to have a company in our space that's been around for as long as they are, so you feel safe and secure. But they're not being complacent. They're growing. Bittrex Global is offering no gas fees, no trading fees, only to Untold Stories listeners. This is an edge for you. You go to untoldstories.com/Bittrex Global. What's the downside? I mean, you're just trading the same thing you're trading on other exchanges, but you're getting no fees and you don't have to worry about gas. It's like going to save you thousands of dollars in the long run. untoldstories.com/Bittrex Global. Enjoy. I think Vitalik said something like that. He said that
I think
needs to start with proof of work in the beginning, and then proof of stake is the longer term. Like once you have fair. So this leads into the next question, and I know you were going to answer this anyways, but I want to ask: is that how important is fair distribution at the outset for the future of a blockchain? Because that's what you're really getting at, right? If it's not from the beginning proof of stake, then it's not fair or permissioned or whatever.
I mean, I think it's really important to get a fair or at least a reasonable distribution for the security perspective if you want to switch to proof of stake or you're using proof of stake, right? Well, if only a few guys control the whole stake, then basically they can just dictate what the network is happening. It's no longer blockchain. It's just a single server or several banks running the server. Something like that. There are also, economic reasons for, or like a social reason you want a fair distribution. I mean, blockchain system gets value when more people join it. So that means you want to have an inclusive blockchain. Well, imagine you can build a blockchain where you own all the token or you own everything in that blockchain, but that one will probably be worthless, right? When no one join and play with it, it's worth zero. Right?
Yeah, it's not worth anything. We're talking here now about like permission versus permissionless blockchains, proof of work versus proof of stake. And I'm curious actually what like goes on in research institutes, because if this is what's happening, then I want to just quit my job and come hang out and theorize and develop and do research all day. Cause it's like, that's like my goal is to be able to get paid to talk. Well, I kind of do that now. I get paid to talk here on the show. So it's kind of a lot of fun. All those teachers who told me to shut up when I was younger. Remind me to ask you a question about schooling in China. I have questions about that, just more for my curiosity's sake. Remind me to ask you that in a second. But before I do that, we talked about like permission versus permissionless chains. And someone told me a scary thought the other day, said that like everything you own one day is going to be represented by like a token in your wallet. So shares of your home, percentage, pieces of your business, even social credits, debt, IOU can be tokenized. Everything will be tokenized. Now, these will be issued by private individuals, by companies, and by governments even. What are, in your view, what is the role of governments in the future of like crypto? Will you see it like more of a hands-off approach that a lot of governments are doing? But then you have countries like China that are saying like, that have been on the forefront of launching, like as much as China's banned Bitcoin or whatever, China has been at the forefront of a lot of Bitcoin and crypto's development over the years. Like just talking about central bank digital currencies and things like that. Like what is the role? Do you see, going back to that like two systems approach, do you see it being a friendly, like having a permissioned and permissionless world, or will all of crypto be this like issued by governments type of thing?
Well, this is really a good question. And
that's why I make the big bucks.
Yeah. So, well, first thing I want to clarify is, I think China is not, there's always some myth like China is super like regulatory, central government controls everything and it's banning every crypto. I mean, that can be true when you
this
also
is the
have
best explanation. Someone said to me, he said, China, every country has loopholes and has ways through the regulations. The difference is in other countries, you go to jail. In China, they regulate the loopholes and they add a tax.
Well,
it's like a crude way of explaining it, but
it's not that. It's okay. Let me say.
It's crude. Okay.
It's okay. So every place has loopholes in the law or something. The difference between China and other places is China, the government is sometimes leading the way of exploiting the loopholes to develop the economy. That's the main difference, right? That is actually called like, I would say, stepping the stones when you try to crossing a river. That's like Deng Xiaoping's phrases when they try to open China up. While back that time, even in the Constitution is saying that China is a communist or socialist country.
But what was the quote with the stones? I never heard it before.
Stepping the stones when you try to crossing a river. Like when you're crossing a river, the river is, you're not sure whether the river is, too deep. You just try to step in the stones every step, right?
Yeah, you're doing it one step at a time,
yeah. Touching the stones or stepping. That is Deng's phrase, and that tells the mentality of how Chinese government thinks. Basically, they're open to try different things, and especially about economic development. I mean, political things, that's a different. I'm not going to discuss that, but I mean, economic things, they're very open about trying new things. That's why actually, internet payment is first, widely adopted in China. And that's also the reason why you got a lot of crypto activities in China. Because, the attitude of Chinese government towards those new stuff, those things in the gray area, is like, as long as it does not hurt the overall financial stability or economic stability, they try to turn on, try to give a more leeway to it.
Leeway.
You are allowed to do more exploration, more experiments. The downside of Chinese government, although the China, is that sometimes they will make up new regulations in the secret door or something, and then you feel like this regulation come of secret door.
Yeah.
And you don't have you don't know it's coming, and then it suddenly comes. That's the downside of China. But for a long time, even right now, I think China has a very friendly regulation territory for a lot of crypto, crypto blockchain activities, I would say.
I think it's actually between Hong Kong, China, Singapore, between those places and all the islands and places around it, Vietnam too, that it has become the center of the crypto world, especially now with India and Australia. But mostly,
I think so. Another thing about China is that it's really important for so it's really important to establish communication channels with government. They want to know what's going on, and
that's the main difference between China and the U.S. here. It's not a thing here. It's like establishing those channels when you start a company on day one is not something that you think about doing.
You can just say, okay, I don't want to bother talking to the government when I'm doing a blockchain project. That's most of the projects trying to do. Actually, we take a different approach because we think it's important, and it's because you need to talk with regulators, tell them what's going on, because they want to learn and they want to make good policies in the end. Right now, they have more of they give more freedoms, or just say, okay, they watch what's going on, but they don't act because they feel, okay, this area is still small and it's not affecting the overall economic stability or something. But one day, people know that this is growing very fast, and one day they need to ask. So government wants to. It's really important to have a communication channel to tell them what's going on, what you want to do, and surprisingly, they listen and they want to learn more. And that's our experience when we talk with them. And they will have a different perspective, right? My perspective is I just want to build this exciting blockchain platform, and and I would just want to potentially use this technology to change the world. Their perspective is they want to know, okay, what this will bring, and what's the benefit to the economy or something this will bring, and what's the potential risk of it. And also the more you talk to them, the more they are comfortable that, okay, you guys are not trying to do a pump and a dump.
Yeah.
That's really important for them.
You talk about Conflux, and you're also a founding member of the Open DeFi project. And then you talk to the government all the time. One of my questions, and I'm sure they want to know, is how will this technology underpin some of the utilities or some of the services that the governments are doing already? Have you looked into that, how this technology will underpin eventually existing technology that we use today?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. And I think the change is already happening. I mean, I think in China, a lot of different levels of governments are trying to adopt the blockchain techniques in their as their governing tools.
Really?
Well, yeah, it is. It is true. I mean, it's a pity that right now most of them are trying alliance chain solutions, but I think it's a really big step forward.
Sure.
Right? I mean, it's things can happen just magically one day. And when we talk with them, we're telling them what's the difference. They're now even being more open to bring some of the applications on the public chain as well.
And here's a great question, actually. Here's a great question. I've always wondered down the road, in the past, and that, I look at crypto, I looked at Bitcoin, I'm like, there's no way governments will get behind this thing. We have to talk to them and communicate with them and make them feel comfortable. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin at its outset was created to be a new financial system that couldn't be controlled by one person. And as you know, governments are wonderful and they're bad, but they're wonderful in a way that they let us innovate, hopefully. But at the same time, they always want to maintain a little bit of control, that little bit of control. So my question to you is that little bit of control, that permissioned part of it, as long as they can have the ability to let people in, then that's enough of control for governments once you're in, to let us innovate and do whatever we want to do?
I think you have to separate the blockchain from the Bitcoin in this perspective. Okay.
It's hard because we can, but the governments won't.
At least the Chinese government will be able to do that, or at least a lot of government can do that. US probably not, but I would say the blockchain platforms, it's just a general platform where if you want to run smart contract, deploy stuff, or issuing tokens, or just it's a platform you can do that. You can even code more complicated things. Those platforms, it's possible to regulate, and people are saying that it's impossible for government to be, okay with it, and especially for Chinese government, they tend to want to censor a lot of things. But the reality is, Chinese government have been fairly successful about controlling, or at least bringing internet to a way that they like, right?
True.
They can do similar things with blockchain. They just need to watch and monitor the interface between the blockchain world and the real world, right?
That's a great
analogy.
For
example, Chinese is already trying to do some kind of monitoring at Chain Explorer or Scan, and you just monitor those interfaces, the information interfaces and assets interfaces between the blockchain and the real world. You can control and mitigate the risk that blockchain platform presents. And that's a way that the Chinese government or a lot of the government will try to do.
What are you?
That's basically the blockchain perspective.
What are
and
you?
The Bitcoin, basically, some sorts of universal token that more people using it and start to, replace the currency, it's a challenging for a lot of government. But I would say it's a bigger thing. If it grows, it's a bigger thing for US or US Fed rather than all the governments. Because, well, US dollar is de facto, I think, the world currency right now, and US enjoys more, right?
So the US has more to lose.
Say, they would worry more about this threat or this issue than all the governments. Right?
How are, I'm just curious, like...
1 second, I think I cannot hear you.
No. I was good you didn't hear me, because I would have interrupted you like 6 times.
Okay.
So you're saying is that like potential Bitcoin's dominance would lead to a losing of dominance for the dollar, which potentially would be a negative result. The only one who would lose out on that is the U.S. On Bitcoin and on growth. So I guess my question to you is like, what are you working on right now? What are you taking up most of your time on, like this week, last week, next week? What is exciting you at this moment? And then after you answer that, how can my listeners follow that and get involved and keep in touch?
Well, I have been mostly busy with follow-up work after the launch of Conflux.
Oh, you guys had your mainnet launched after a few years. Congratulations. I forgot to tell you that.
Yeah. So we just launched our mainnet. And, I believe this is the first, I think, scalable network that uses proof of work. And it's, there's still a lot of work to do after the launch. So we are trying to make sure that the network at the early stage is stable and secure, and it has enough of hash power to make it a secure one, and also reaches and so there are a lot of excitement in the community. So that's what I was busy about in the last 2 weeks, and it will probably keep me busy for the next month. It's a lot of things to do.
Thank you so much for taking the time today and joining the show, and thank you for all the research and development that you're doing. But more importantly, thank you for being a Bitcoiner, understanding the differences between like the different types of chains, and then being the person that's talking to the government about it. Because whoever's talking to the various governments of the world, we need to make sure that they know what they're talking about. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure. I just felt like a blockchain is kind of a revolutionary technique that will change every aspect of our life in the next decade or something. And I just the reason why I'm engaged in Conflux is felt like I want to be part of this change. I want to drive this change to some extent, and I hope Conflux can be the vessel for it. And I see a lot of potential of blockchain applied to all areas of
every area of the world.
Every area.
Yeah.
The problem is, right now you just don't have enough of a capacity, or you have to sacrifice something you don't want to sacrifice.
But will the demand follow the capacity, or will the capacity follow the demand?
Well, I think right now we are having the cycle, right? So it's like we are already seeing Ethereum reaches its capacity multiple times with the DeFi, with crypto.
Yeah, true story. And Ethereum broke last week. There was an unannounced hard fork. So this is all such experimental still. I don't really know what's going on.
And Conflux is experimental. Yeah. Everything is experimental. And that's excitement. Well, I would say that things will happen in cycle when you first have a great demand. It drives innovation and have a capacity, and a higher capacity will drive more innovation. Just imagine, right?
That's what happens.
Just imagine 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you won't have apps like TikTok, right? Well, nobody would use, precious cell phone data to watch video. Like one video will count your month's data.
Yeah, I remember.
But when the capacity grows, when you have 5G, 4G, 5G,
you could do more.
I can watch TikTok, right? And such demand will only occur when you have enough capacity. And that's why I say it's actually grow in cycle and it's interdependent with each other.
Wow, this has been an amazing show. Thank you so much. Mind blowing.